He doesn't yell. He doesn't beg. He just watches. That's how one actor described working with Steven Spielberg. And that's where the mystery begins. In an industry where directors often have to shout to be heard, Spielberg takes the opposite path. He doesn't force. He doesn't rush. He waits, observes, and when he chooses, he never looks back. The hardest thing for a director isn't getting what you want, it's knowing what you want. Spielberg knows. Sometimes from a single glance. For over 50 years, he hasn't just built cinematic worlds. He's built people, characters, who step into his frame and never leave it. He doesn't work with noise. He works with resonance. He doesn't cast for fame. He casts for gravity. Among the hundreds of actors he's worked with, just a few have shifted something in him. They didn't just perform. They changed the rhythm of his storytelling. They made silence heavier. They gave breath to tension. And they helped him tell stories not just with spectacle, but with soul. Some of them returned again and again. Others only appeared once. But each one left something that never faded. This isn't a list of favorites. This is a quiet map of trust. These are the 6 actors Spielberg holds closest, not for headlines or hype, but for the weight they brought to his lens. Stay with me to the end, because the final name may surprise you. But to Spielberg, it was unforgettable. When Steven calls, I don't ask what it is. I just say yes. Tom Hanks. Some directors find actors. Spielberg found a twin. Tom Hanks wasn't just cast into Spielberg's world. He became part of its foundation, a kind of creative constant, a moral compass the camera could trust. Their partnership stretches across decades and across genres, from the brutality of Saving Private Ryan to the quiet precision of Bridge of Spies, from the loneliness of The Terminal to the political urgency of The Post. And through all of it, Spielberg kept returning to one thing: Hanks's unwavering presence. What makes their collaboration powerful isn't chemistry, it's consistency. Hanks doesn't dazzle to impress. He shows up to ground everything around him. When the narrative begins to rise, he becomes the gravity that holds it down. Hanks doesn't steal scenes, he grounds them. On the set of Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg often gave little to no direction, just a glance, a hand gesture. Hanks didn't need instruction, he needed space, and in that space, he delivered something quieter than brilliance: truth. Spielberg once said, watching Hanks act was like observing water find its level. No ego, no theatrics, just emotional control flowing exactly where it was needed. When Hanks stepped into The Post as Ben Bradley, Spielberg didn't have to sculpt the performance. He simply watched it unfold. It was like watching a lion walk into the newsroom, he later said, but there were no fireworks between them, no dramatic rehearsals or speeches, just mutual trust, repeated over 25 years. He gives me emotional oxygen. Spielberg. Hanks brings more than talent. He brings steadiness, restraint, a kind of moral reliability that's rare in any industry, especially one built on noise. And that's why Spielberg keeps calling. Not because Hanks surprises him, but because he doesn't have to. Hanks doesn't elevate the story, he anchors it. And sometimes that's what a great film needs most. Someone who doesn't need to prove anything, just show up and hold the frame still. When Spielberg cast Daniel Day-Lewis as Abraham Lincoln, he wasn't just selecting an actor, he was summoning a presence. Day-Lewis didn't audition, he didn't rehearse in the traditional sense. He arrived already transformed. From the moment he stepped onto set, Lincoln wasn't being played, he was simply there. He gave me the gift of time travel. Spielberg. Spielberg, a director known for shaping every detail, stepped back. He didn't call him Daniel on set. He called him Mr. President, not as a gimmick, but because that's what the work required, and Day-Lewis didn't break the illusion. His performance in Lincoln wasn't loud, it wasn't theatrical, it was quiet, controlled, carried entirely in breath, posture, and silence. Every pause felt like it carried the weight of an entire country. Spielberg later admitted, "I didn't direct him, I just witnessed him." It wasn't easy getting Day-Lewis on board. Spielberg had pursued him for years. He was famously selective, often turning down roles that didn't align with his process. But when he finally said yes, Spielberg knew he had something singular. No first names, no small talk, just reverence, a crew member once recalled. They never worked together again, not out of conflict, but because lightning rarely strikes the same way twice, and maybe it shouldn't. For Spielberg, the collaboration wasn't just about the film. It reshaped how he saw performance. It deepened his respect for silence. It slowed his camera, made him wait for meaning rather than push for impact. Lincoln earned Daniel Day-Lewis his third Academy Award, and it gave Spielberg something harder to define, a sense that, for once, the story told itself. Even now, Spielberg talks about that film differently, not with pride, with awe. Some performances don't need direction, they need space. When Spielberg cast Cate Blanchett in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it wasn't an obvious choice. She was known for Shakespearean depth, for haunting restraint, for the elegance of silence. But here, Spielberg didn't want warmth. He wanted control, measured, surgical, cold. Blanchett stepped into the role of Irina Spalko, with a blade in her hand and a calculation in her stare. She didn't play the villain as loud or wild. She played her like an instrument, precise, efficient, unshakable. Cate brings precision. She doesn't perform, she operates. Spielberg. On set, she didn't need rehearsal to find the tone. She was the tone. Every movement was clipped, every line delivered like a command, masked as a whisper. Her character didn't need to be feared. She needed to be respected. And Blanchett understood that better than anyone. Spielberg rarely casts for flash. He casts for shape. And Blanchett gave Spalko a shape so sharp it cut through the entire film. Critics debated the movie. Some found it too big, too bizarre. But even among the noise, Blanchett stood out. Not because she shouted over it, but because she moved under it. While the action swirled around her, she held her line, straight, cold, calculated. Her presence was a deviation from the Indiana Jones formula. She wasn't chasing the artifact, she was the consequence of it. A figure you don't argue with, you just feel her coming. Behind the scenes, Spielberg often just let the camera roll. He didn't ask Blanchett to ramp up her energy. He asked her to stay still and let the fear catch up. She was never loud. She was exact, and that was louder than anything. Spielberg. They haven't worked together since, but like many of Spielberg's choices, it wasn't about longevity. It was about the moment, getting it right, exactly once. And Cate Blanchett did just that. Not a word wasted, not a step out of place, a villain not made of rage, but of rhythm. When Spielberg met Leonardo DiCaprio, the world still saw a heartthrob. Titanic was fresh, the fame was overwhelming, and most directors wanted the glow that came with it. But Spielberg didn't see the glow. He saw the gears. "He's got a clock inside him," Spielberg once said. "He never misses a beat. He's not guessing, he's landing." Their first and only collaboration, Catch Me If You Can, wasn't flashy. It was intricate. DiCaprio's Frank Abagnale wasn't just a con man. He was a wounded boy in a man's suit. And Spielberg leaned into that, the panic beneath the polish, the grief behind the grin. DiCaprio brought restraint, stillness under pressure. He played the chaos like a melody, never rushing, never breaking, and Spielberg gave him room to explore that rhythm. On set, DiCaprio didn't ask for rewrites. He asked questions, specific ones, about tone, about silence, about timing. Even as the youngest actor in the room, he behaved like a craftsman, not a celebrity. Their chemistry was professional, focused, unspoken. Spielberg gave minimal notes. Leo adjusted like clockwork. "It's not that he hits marks," one crew member said. "It's that he knows the frame. He feels it." There were rumors of future projects, a Howard Hughes film, a courtroom epic, but schedules never aligned. Still, Spielberg kept praising him. Long after The Revenant, after The Wolf of Wall Street, after Oscar wins and headlines, Spielberg would still refer to DiCaprio as unfinished business. Because Catch Me If You Can wasn't just a movie, it was a glimpse of what DiCaprio could be if paired with the right director, at the right time, with the right silence. They made one film together. One. But in Spielberg's world, that was enough. Because some actors don't need years to earn trust. They need one scene, one shot, one breath. And DiCaprio landed all three, on beat, without warning. Across 5 decades, Spielberg has worked with hundreds of actors, some legendary, some forgotten. But only a few left fingerprints on his storytelling. Only a few stayed in orbit. He doesn't cast based on fame. He doesn't chase trend or energy. He listens for something quieter, something heavier. He casts for gravity, and gravity, in Spielberg's films, isn't loud. It's the silence that holds a scene steady. It's the look that speaks before the dialogue. It's the breath that holds the weight of history, without a word. From Hanks to Day-Lewis, Blanchett to DiCaprio, each one gave Spielberg not just talent, but reflection. Their performances didn't just serve the plot, they revealed something about Spielberg himself, what he fears, what he honors, what he remembers.